I have a background in biology. I spent 10 years teaching at the university, teaching biology. Then my life changed, and I am now engaged in this field. I'm going to be delivering my speech together with my partner, Tetiana Cherednychok. She sits right in the front row. We have one more partner from our team. He's right next to my partner, Tetiana. He is a professional translator. Community was established about 7 years ago. At the beginning, we started translating one of the largest RPG of the beginning of the 20th century, the 21st century, Baldur's Gate. And the editors, publishers, allowed us to localize their game into Ukrainian. Ukrainian website came up with this initiative, and Medicronal is a user that we used to initiate this translation, this localization. We spent 2 years on this translation, and we had over 600,000 words. It was really complicated for us because we are volunteers, not professionals. So we didn't end up here. We continued looking for new projects. At the moment, Shlach Betraf has been there for 7 years. There are around 40 people that are members of the communities and other outside volunteers, so to say. What's interesting about our work? We cooperate only with official players. Last year, our community, Shlach Betraf, was registered as an NGO, so we kind of went out of the shade, and now we are an official entity. Well, here I have a title, collaboration between professionals and amateurs. I first was thinking about the words, but this is what I finally came up with. So about half of the community members are professionals in translations and localization. They work in different areas of translation. There is a military translator, a person with a master's degree in this particular field. There are also professional teachers of languages. The other half of our members are specialists in absolutely different areas, starting with biologists to historians, to philosophers, to psychologists. All kinds of professions are represented. And this altogether, this diversity enables us to have some synergy. You can see this flower on the screen. This is a traditional English name. There is a number of plants in different countries that have the same name. And Ukrainian word was not, equivalent was not easy to find. I am a biologist, so this was my contribution to find a proper word for the very specific and accurate name for this plant. Quality of translation is going to rely upon the qualification of an editor. A lot of people contribute to our work. So, speaking of which, we have to tell you that all our members live throughout the country, throughout Ukraine. we use only internet-based platforms. You can see Telegram, Crowd.in. They are our partners. They support us a lot. We also use Trello. You can see this map and the cities: Ternopil, Lviv, Zaporizhia, Dnipro, Odessa, Kharkiv, Kyiv. Not every city is marked here. Maybe 10 or 15 more can be marked as well. We also have members from other countries outside of Ukraine. This is the avatar of our senior administrator. Next slide. Sorry. Okay, I'll let the music play. The main specificity of this community is that it's very much open. We cooperate with all kinds of organizations, and we have this widest range of openness. You can see the list of links. These are all kinds of messengers, all kinds of websites where we are represented. A lot of people follow this, track this, at least 4 members. The video you saw, this is one of our video reports. Maxim Livanov used to do that. And this is a part of our visibility campaign. We have all kinds of reports that we publish online, including video reports, so that people and the audience could get to know about our organization. An important part, like I said, we don't earn money. But why do we exist? In the first place, we are trying to establish market, and we are quite successful in that. We first have to have a product, and publishers have to see this product. So, in fact, we're working for you as well, you translators. A community of people doing good or good doers can be really beneficial to a lot of people, and you can see the list of benefits, potential benefits. We have a number of specialists we can address, contact if we need some support. And we can give them access to this localized game earlier than others on the market. And they can pay, or they can pay part of what we need to translate a large project. You see, volunteer organizations are mainly engaged in major, big projects. We will talk about that a bit later. But smaller projects are usually performed by the publishers themselves. Interaction with developers. We have to admit it's not easy. It's not simple. We have to contact them, and these are some feedback from the developers we worked with. There is quite a lot of them, but mainly we can say developers are satisfied with us. Our local developers usually translate things to promote themselves inside the country. And apart from that, they can acquire some positive feedback. Everyone knows that the best fans of a product live in the country where the product was developed in the first place. On this slide, I'm trying to say that the best is yet to come, and this is the most interesting part for me personally. You see 4 flags here, a Ukrainian flag and 3 different countries: Ireland, Czech Republic, and Poland. Why do we have these three countries here? That's because they are examples of what can happen with Ukrainian language in Ukraine. Irish language has almost no users, and it's a problem to find users of a product in Irish. Czech language, again, is another example. A lot of people in Czech Republic speak English, and if you establish or if you make something in Czech, it's going to be on Czech market at some point. The same is true for Polish. They have a rule, they are quite active, and that's what we are trying to do with our audience. People have to understand and be aware of their needs. In this, to this end, Poles are a good example. They compel publishers to issue products in Polish. So these three countries are three potential scenarios for us, for Ukraine. Speaking of Ukrainian language, I can say that Steam is a major player. They have Ukrainian language due to efforts of volunteers. There is STS organization. They localize a lot of products. They translated Steam interface in 26 languages. And you can compare and see that Ukrainian is not one of forgotten languages by the volunteers, I mean. So Ukrainian volunteers are quite active. On Steam, there is around 1,000 games in Ukrainian. These are independent projects created by Ukrainian developers or developers of Ukrainian origin. All the other major projects are translated by volunteers. What's interesting about that? None of these major projects can be translated by one person only or by a small team. This has to be a solid group of people. Now I'm going to give the floor to my partner for this presentation. So greetings everyone. My name is Tetiana Cherednychok. I am an editor, translator, and tester in the localization community Szlach Betraw. I've been a member of this community for 2 years. I'd like to tell you about peculiarities of video game localization. At the beginning, I'd like to tell you about our projects, about different aspects of localization, and give you some examples from our gaming projects. During our existence, Szlach Betraw team translated some of the games you see on the screen. Apart from that, we have translated some literary works, The Color of Magic, and philosophical thing Through the Dragon Glass, and The Giant's Heart, The Golden Key. You can find these titles on the pages of Fantasy Journal. At the moment we are working on these projects. You can see their names on this slide. We also work on Ozark series and Outsider. Now let's move on to the aspects of localization. While localizing a video game, translators have some difficulties in terms of literary aspect and technical aspect. I mean, the language of a work, the images, style, whatever makes a literary work literary, actually. Speaking of technical aspect, here we have to consider everything which is important for how the text will look like on the interface. So today I'd like to focus on technical part because it's more complex and more interesting in our view for localization purposes. I mean, let's start with placeholders. These placeholders contain some data, and we can categorize them into 3 groups. First, these are placeholders that are known, and these are usually name of a character, race, whatever is relevant. The second group comprises placeholders that can be understood from the context, like a companion or a number. And the third group are unknown. Their value, their content is not known, and they require particular attention. You can see the square parentheses and brackets. You can see any number that would indicate quantity of something. It could be whatever, or it could be a word or part of a sentence, like a phrase. Now we are going to have some examples to illustrate each group. We encountered this sentence. This was Saga 3, a strategy game. The name here means a character's name. And what's interesting in field of translation of such sentence, we have to rephrase it in a way that we have the neutral noun at the beginning of a Ukrainian sentence. We have also be aware of a feminine or masculine sex of each word in Ukrainian. We have to adjust the words accordingly. We also have to count digits and signs on the screen. We have to take into account all the things I just listed and find necessary word to replace this placeholder. There is no silver bullet how we can translate such sentences. That's why we solve these issues case by case. So we decided to transform the predicative center in a sentence. This can help us avoid grammatical mistakes when the placeholder is replaced with the real name or whatever it should be. This is from the Heart of Fate game. This game is produced by the Australians. You can see a sentence. It seems really simple. There is no complex things, but if we draw parallels to the previous example, we can see here that this sentence also requires paraphrasing. You see green field, comp name. It should be neutral noun for holding place for a name of a character. And then yellow field, num, it means a number of turns. So that we can keep relevance, we transformed a sentence into the following. So actually we moved the green field to the beginning of the sentence, and it's now a neutral position for a noun, for a proper name. Next example. Hand of Fate 2. You can see this sentence is full of placeholders. Before we start translation, we have to look into details what each of these placeholders mean.
So everything that starts C and there's C in the square brackets with the highlight thing, and also the semi-bold and with the color. So that is on the slide. That means damage. It means the count of damage, to the enemy, and also the blue field means the type of enemies. And now when we can see all these signs, and now we can translate this fragment. And now here we can see such a translation. So what is interesting, this case that happened during localization of the Curious Expedition, it's a simulating expedition, so during the mission match. So in expedition, there are some challenges. One especially, they form the name of the territory. So you can see the yellow field is the noun, and the blue field is the attributive, so adjective. So it's a random thing, and so if we make these changes in the original, so these placeholders in the original, we can see that the sentence is absent, and then the quality of localization is lower. So you can see the text that we saw during the testing of this video game. So it's we made up, the genius solution. So we just decided to change singular to plural, and so we are saying using deserts, we are using frosts. We did the same, with the adjective. And in the translation, so the user will see, or the gamer will see frosts, deserts, and other things. And because of this mean or device, we actually avoided the mistake, and we did not change the message. So we are going to look at the case. One of the cases that like our colleagues came across, also localizers, and the head of the localization union gave it to us, the Steam translation server, Andriy Rabashuk. And they met it while they were using this multi-user games survival simulator. Survival evolved from 4 studios of developers: Studio Wildcard, Instinct Games, Effecto Studios, and Virtual Basement. This is the real line, and there is no context, and it's just placeholders, so it's not known how to translate that. So our colleagues by experimenting, and testing, they found out, the meaning of each placeholder. So the first green one is the type of the creature, so wild or domesticated. The yellow one is the gender or sex. The blue one is the article, and the fourth one is the name of the creature, and the fifth is the level of the creature. In the English localization, so you can see it like this. As you know, in the previous examples, so you need to localize the text so that it would be more organic, and also it would be both, gender neutral, so it would fit both female and male. And also the Ukrainian language has the gender features like flexions, and then we were saying like non-domesticated, male, so and like they can be tempting, like some like the ones with the unexperienced localizers, they tend to omit the article, but it's quite dangerous. So our localizers decided to make it like empty, but still, keep the place, hold the place. So and then Ukrainian, so it's a relevant decision. So and the fourth placeholder is the creature, and then the level. You can see the snapshot from the game, and that's how it looks in the game. So apart from placeholders, there are different technical signs, technical symbols that influence visualization and layout. So they are tags. Usually it's the color and the font of text, and different other signs that can comprise one or two symbols, signs, or even the gap. And they show how the text is laid out on the page, how it looks on the page, and also the result of the same event. We will start from the tags that happen quite often during the localization. So tag means the highlighting and the color, and also in the tags cannot be changed because it can bring to the invalid text on the screen or just the loss of information. The technical signs, they regulate the parameters of the text layout. And so you can see, the example of these, and this is the detective game with the open world. And as you can see, in this case, the row starts from some sign that means the beginning of a new paragraph. And you need to have a look at the agreement between the members of the sentence where the signs are, and that's how it looks, this like in the game. And also during the localization, so we can see the part of the sentences that depend on the decisions or solutions of the gamers. So it's also the case from the expedition game. And the first is the agreement between the sentence members. So the part of the static sentence, is blue. You can see it's blue. It's the part of the static sentence, and the part of the dynamic sentence should be connected, should be linked, should be agreed, and you need to have a look at each combination and kind of try it out, and if it's needed, just correct it. And also, so in English there is no gender flexions, and again we need to take it into account, how it will look in Ukrainian. So what we did this time to make it relevant for us, so as the narrative in the game is as diary notes, and while you're walking through the game, so they reflect the current events. So we decided to change the past tense into the present tense, and we then, becoming close to the original text, and we just looked at one row, and also so in the translation we have such a sentence. So while waiting for new adventures, I'm uploading, so the captain is not on the ship, so and I'm just throwing out the stones, and that's how I do. You can see that all the parts are fully linked, fully agreed, and any combination will be good. And also you can see that apart from the row of the sentences, there can be the placeholders, but also there can be parts of sentences. So this is the case. So when we are localizing the Greenwood, it's the corporate. The Greenwood is the strategy, survival strategy from the Bulgarian developers, Big Mustache Games. So there can be the placeholders, could be the names of the characters, parts of the sentences, and any meanings. So, but our task was in the result after the game, puts all the meanings. Our sentence would be relevant and syntactically agreed. And first of all, we decided to find out what each placeholder means. So 0 means the target. So here it would be the name. Number 1 is the name of weapons to attack. Number 2 is the result of the attack. Number 4 is the name of the enemy who we previously attacked. These placeholders are different because this is the peculiarity of the engine of the game. And number 3 is the damage that got the enemy. And so these variants, they agree all the parts of the sentences. So we get Selan is attacking the target of the gray dwarf with the help of the spears, and the gray dwarf has quite serious damage. And we have looked at the cases that we face or we come across during practicing our localization. And now we are going to speak about the agreement of lines in the dialogue. And the situation that shows it brightly. So when we were localizing the game, the sinking city, and we got some problems with the fragments of the text, and looking into the peculiarities of the engine. So if it's an identical game, so it should be identical localization. So the translation should be similar or identical, and it was good, when we were doing that. So it was just about several lines from the dialogue. But why it was so difficult to translate such a simple sentences? Why can't you use like the full sentence? The thing is that the main character meets characters that they either using the formal address or informal address. So and then if we localized it the other way, then the characters, they would use chaotically a formal and informal address. And to get rid of it or to avoid it, we decided just to simplify the translation. We just shortened like of these sentences, and we were just using the question words and and this is the very simple solution, and we provided the high level of the Ukrainian localization in the sinking city. So, and also it has the restriction on the number of characters, and now you can see if you exceed the limit of the signs. And so we were testing this. The screenshot is from the testing session, and so we need to either shorten the text or so that it would be in the frame and not to ruin the original message. So we have the text that fits both in size and the message. And now let's speak about the separation from this visual part. So the game is usually in the developing case, and in case it's very difficult translation situation, you cannot get to the video game and check the translation. So that's exactly what happened here. So the problem is that this subject, so non-living thing, suddenly becomes living and just becomes alive, and then we just during the testing session we translated it like this, as if the sword has bitten, but separated with some gap there. And then the fragmentation of text also can ruin our work. So we could see, we translated that the way looking at this dialogue branch. So, and the developer decided to get some changes into the localization. And you can see that these changes would not actually change anything in the English version, but unfortunately in the Ukrainian version, so it was changed. So we then corrected. So, and then other problems that we have during localization are the special symbols. So usually fonts are not our problems. It was the official localization, and then developer has a specialist that develop the fonts. And then in case the developer needs our help, we go that we came across this problem when we were localizing Punk Shooter game from the Polish developer. And the problem with fonts is that they do not have the Ukrainian I letter, and that the developer has drawn the fonts for the Russian and then justified from his work, and then we just decided to use the English I with the Ukrainian I. You can see that it's a bit different, but we didn't have other choice, so we decided to solve it like that. And also the sentences that they need. So this is quite difficult to localize when you can choose if it's a female or male character, and then the problem is in agreement between the sentence members. And as you can choose that in the process of localization, the sentence should be rephrased in such a way so you could use both for female and male gender. So this case is interesting not only with the thing that we need to take into account the gender of who is talking, but also to the one to whom he or she, because here you cannot get from the context either the gender of the interlocutor who is talking, or either the ones to whom he or she is addressing. So in this case, in this translation, so you can see that you can tell who is who, but we decided to go to the impersonal sentence, and then this is gender neutral sentence and would fit in any context. So, and I would like to thank our partners, so that it would be very difficult to translate the universes. And we are grateful to the organizers, and we wish them inspirations. And thank you for that. Ukrainization of the universe is ongoing.
Thank you so much for an interesting presentation. Do we have questions?
The type of technology you use for this to handle the translations. Crowd in. I missed that. I'm sorry. I must have been getting the headset. I'm sorry.
The tool is called crowding.
Crowd in.
We have one microphone.
It's this platform, yeah, all the languages, all the popular languages, most. Well, we work with the Ukrainian, so Ukrainian language is supported, but you can visit their website and check this. Yes, this is online CAT tool, which is aimed to perform automatic translation and also to manage your translations.
It's open source one. It's free, free one. Just make it. It's not free.
This software is group orientated. It mostly orientated on big teams, development teams, and game developers, for example. So they can use it to provide some tool for volunteer localizers, localization teams from different countries. Banner Saga is a good example. So the team bought this tool for their let's say, localization teams in different countries so that they can use it. But they are our, let's say, friends. So we have this for our projects no matter if it was, who, let's say, was it bought by the company or not, I mean, development company.
They gave you it for free. It's if compared to other tools, it's not very expensive. Ще запитаннячка.
Не дуже дорого. Ще питання?
I have not a question, but rather a comment. We have to get back to Saga and to correct a mistake about the turns. It should be 3, not 2. So it should be here about turns, number of turns. That's right, okay. Fine. Next speaker. Or maybe a question.
And what about the interoperability? Does it support importing resources like in TMX, TBX formats, etc.? Okay, so you can add in different formats. Okay.
That's another question as well. Can you see the game in context while you're translating it?
Thank you. Not always we have context. Often we don't have it. We can check the context only in game, but we try to make our translation more neutral in order it fits to every possible situation.
They see the result on the testing phase when testers try it and see the results.
So you can import, when you're importing the file, you can there is a dedicated field for context specifically. Unfortunately, you cannot see it on the screenshots or like in game. It's not in real time, obviously, but there is some limited context capability. Yeah. Not only that, but it tells you if it's localizable, if the whatever the developer gave you, you can import in that into that field so that the translators can see that context. As in the whole tree, like of dialogues. What? No, unfortunately not. It's just like any.
No, we see the strings. Yes, it can be, for example, the first string of the file. It's the first phrase of the dialogue, for example, and the second string, for example, description of hero's equipment. So, yes.